The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
Episode 601 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Jason Bryant here with you in such a weird time of wrestling. And no, this is no April Fool's joke. I think a lot of people woke up here on April 1st wondering, was the last 2 weeks of our wrestling life all a dream? Or was it a sick joke? No, it wasn't. And we try to get back to some semblance of normalcy by creating content. You see a lot of us out there, whether it be Flow Wrestling, whether it be Track Wrestling, whether it be the various Rockfin channels, including my own, looking to give you something to kind of wet your wrestling whistle. This is episode 601. Today, I will talk with LaFragola. He was a three-time national qualifier at Brown University, finished up his athletic eligibility at Sacred Heart University, but playing football and baseball. We'll talk to him about what it was like being a three-sport college athlete and just some of the things that go along with it. We'll also touch on some things in what he and his teammates felt like on the baseball field when their season was cut mid-year and his experiences at Brown and what his former teammates felt. It's shout-out time to the newest team members. Those of you who help contribute and keep this network afloat and keep the lights on and the walls padded for so many different ways. If you know how crazy I can be, yep, that's kind of a double entendre with what's padded walls. Of course, they're also for sound treatment. But anyway, Tony Rotundo, JD Rader, and Tim Valier, they are the latest team members. They're going to be getting a shirt, draft glass sticker. They're going to give you all sorts of cool stuff as part of their perks to membership and being a team member. Basically, you're supporting the world's largest on-demand wrestling network. Yep, that's right. More shows about wrestling than anywhere else in the world right here at MattTalkOnline.com. If you like what you hear, if this is your first time or second time chiming in, and we've been in a bit of a lull with interview shows because, well, I've been traveling, and then nobody was traveling. So there's no events and stuff to do, no press conferences, no post-match interviews, no great Cinderella stories to interview. So we have what we have. But those team members, so JD and Tony, I've actually known for a while. Tony, a really long time. JD, I had a chance to really hang with him last year in Fargo when he was an intern at USA Wrestling. He now works down in Austin at Flow Wrestling. And then Tim Valier out of New Jersey. Thanks for the support. You want us to be like those guys, be the part of the cool kids? Well, we're decidedly not cool in podcasting. But if you want to contribute to the network and keep things rolling here, MattTalkOnline.com/join the team. That is the easiest way to do it. It gives you the options, whether it be PayPal, whether it be the Patreon campaign, whether you want to jump on the Rockfin channel and get content that way. That also helps us out. But I'm not going to beat you over the head with calls to action. It's been a while since you heard my voice proper, not in a studio, not talking about food or beer. Great responses on those shows, too. So I might be doing some more of that in coming years, no matter where we go. Because based on what I'm hearing in the feedback, you guys did seem to enjoy those shows. And maybe we go on location and check out what's going to go on, what's popping in St. Louis next year, or what's going to be up in Detroit. And it's not just going to be Little Caesars, even though the arena's named after that. But that's what I got now. Listen to LaFragola. We kind of go all over the place with this one. We talk movies, we talk sports heroes, we talk Ivy League education, we talk football, we talk baseball, we talk wrestling. And it's now on episode 601 of the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Now visiting with CJ LaFragola, graduate student at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. We're not here to talk about CJ's complete career in football and baseball at Sacred Heart, but he has the unique distinction of being a rare three-sport athlete. CJ, as an undergraduate, you were a three-time national qualifier at Brown University and then had that year of eligibility, and you decided to go to Sacred Heart. First things first, what were the difficulties in trying to say, I'm going to play three Division I sports as a college athlete?
I mean, I always going into it had an idea that I was going to do more than one sport. Initially, actually, with Todd over at Brown, I was getting recruited for both football and wrestling. And the coach kind of pulled me aside and was like, hey, we're giving you the roster spot, so I want to make sure, you complete the wrestling stuff first before you jump ship. So initially, I kind of had the idea going in doing two sports. And but growing up, I always played multiple sports, and I always dreamed of playing three sports as long as I can. So I always had the intention of doing something. I just didn't know when until I found out about Sacred Heart.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you come from New Jersey, which, there's, wrestling's big there, football's big there. I'm not too familiar with how the baseball scene is there, but, it's a great sports state and the opportunity to go Ivy League for athletics. When did that really enter your mindset coming out of high school or while you were in high school?
Yeah, going into high school, I never necessarily thought Ivy League right away, but, junior and senior year, I started getting different looks for football and wrestling. And then the wrestling guys coming around mostly for the Ivies. And when I realized I had that opportunity, obviously Todd opened the door to me, but I had a couple other schools that were looking at me. Penn, Cornell was looking at me. And when I had that opportunity to go Ivy League, I couldn't pass it up. My parents, would be like, what are you doing? Like, this is like the chance of a lifetime. And that's kind of what led me to that Ivy League. And I was fortunate enough that I worked hard enough, over the 4 years in high school, and I did well on my test scores to be able to get into that institution.
Where did you choose Brown over? What were your top four?
So believe it or not, top four, it was Brown, obviously. Cornell was high. I was really close with Coach Hahn, who's coaching at South Dakota now. So I was kind of teetering with them. And then I was also kind of still on the football side. So Sacred Heart actually had offered me for football. And then also Lehigh was another one with football, though. So it was kind of like 2 wrestling, 2 football, but then Brown just came up with the best package.
Even though Sacred Heart and Lehigh both had wrestling programs, so it was those were football offers, but the opportunity may have existed to walk on the wrestling teams there.
Not necessarily. I know Sacred Heart was definitely football, and then Lehigh was mostly football. But that would have been an interesting thing if it was like Lehigh, definitely.
Now, you ended up being a 3-time national qualifier at Brown, so you had pretty good wrestling chops. I mean, what sport of the 3 do you like the best?
I always get this question, and I always answer it kind of around. I never get to the target, but in high school, I always used to say it mattered what season it was. I know during baseball season, I love baseball. It's laid back. Football's the ultimate team game, so you can't beat that. But then wrestling kind of took the cake with college and stuff because just that individuality to it, and you kind of control your destiny, and just no sport can match the intensity of wrestling. And you put so much into it, but the reward you get is just so great that feeling when you get your hand raised at the end of a 7-minute match, it's unmatchable.
You're coming through in a generation of kids are specializing in sports early, and a lot of college coaches are saying, well, they like kids that have that broad athletic background. What did you find about your own performances in those individual 3 sports that helped you grow as an athlete, not specializing on one of them year round?
I actually had this question recently, and the big thing is it's not just physically. Obviously, physically, you're working different muscles. It's different types of cardio. Even in baseball, it's different techniques that you have to master, body control. So everything's applicable to all the sports. And then the other thing I found a strong mental thing. Obviously, wrestling mental is intense. But as a teammate, you have to learn how to be a different type of teammate. So like wrestling, you're going out there, you're with a team, but you have to win for the team on your own. So you learn how to, achieve on your own. But then with baseball and stuff, it's a little different because like football, you're in the game. You have to perform as a unit and you have to know how to perform as a group. So I guess I learned some life skills as well by just playing the 3 different sports. I think it was just an interesting dynamic, just working with different groups of people and different types of athletes. Everybody's different, and it's just interesting to learn from all these different realms.
Now, in terms of the college scene, once you got done with wrestling, we'll get back to actually your career there. I'm just curious on the eligibility on how it works. For a lot of people that don't know, the Ivy League doesn't allow graduate students to compete. Now, you got your undergraduate degree from Brown, I'm assuming, because you're at another institution, but the opportunity to get that extra year for other sport couldn't exist at Brown because of that graduate student rule, right?
Correct. And I didn't know about this rule so it's the connection with Sacred Heart's kind of interesting. So one of the coaches, he just finished up there now, but he played at St. Joe's, my high school, and we were good friends growing up. And he was the safeties coach. And my junior year, when we wrestled Sacred Heart, he gave me the idea because he came to the match and watched. And he said, I didn't realize you can use a 5th year in a different sport. So that's how I was able to kind of get around it. So you can do your 4 years whatever sport you're doing, and then you're honored that 5th year. I guess as long as you didn't redshirt, you're honored the 5th year of that other sport, which was like an interesting rule. But when he told me that, that's kind of what opened up that door.
Yeah, and you can't, of course, the Ivy League doesn't, again, allow graduate students. So you've got 8 semesters to compete.
Correct.
or participate in school. It's not like you can just take a year off, year on, year off, year on, year off. So, and balancing those 8 semesters, you got the opportunity to go to Sacred Heart. But when did the baseball thing come in? Okay, it's not abnormal to see wrestlers go to the football field. Steve Mocco, of course, did it when he was at Oklahoma State. He finished up and was on the football team for his year after he was done wrestling. But, okay, football, that's, great story. But now, Ben Hannes did the same thing, played football. He was All-American at Cornell, went up and played football at Syracuse. But now then baseball, when does that option enter your mind when you're at Sacred Heart?
So believe it or not, I'm crazy. It planted in my mind a little bit before that. So growing up, obviously, I said I played 3 sports forever. And so before I went to Sacred Heart, I knew I was playing football. That was kind of set in stone. Just to, plant a little seed in the baseball guy's mind, I actually sent them an email just, hey, here's a heads up. I'm coming as a grad student. Once football's done, I was wondering if I could have opportunity to try out. So that seed was kind of planted. It was my senior year at Brown. So I at least had a little bit of a connection with the coaches. And then after football, once it was all done, all my responsibilities were over, I went into the office and I introduced myself, properly, like in person. And we started talking. They gave me basically a tryout opportunity. I'm like, of course I'm going to go for it because I love the sport and I love to compete. And that's kind of where it stemmed from. So it was kind of always in my mind. Throughout like my senior year and during football, I knew I was going to give it a try. I just wasn't sure exactly how the pieces were going to fall together until after football.
Now, it's been a long time since I played baseball, but one thing we know about the sport is timing is a crucial part of it. And whether it be, the jump off first or whether swinging the bat or, getting the jump off the fly ball. What was the hardest thing about getting back, I guess, into baseball shape coming off of a season of football and 4 years of wrestling?
Well, obviously the biggest thing's hitting. I think. I mean, I can figure out fielding is one of those things that I've always been natural at, but hitting something you have to put a lot of reps into. And I was lucky enough today. I had a nice cage facility, and you got to just put in thousands of reps, swinging, coach pitching, machine, every kind of hitting drill you can think of. But just that big thing when that first day I faced live pitching. It's just that timing thing. You're a little early, a little late. It's just readjusting to that comfort with that timing. That was the biggest thing. And it's tough because mostly you're indoors. And never had to hit like indoors we're doing like live hitting in a cage. And it's kind of funky even there. So even like the parameters are a little awkward. But I was pretty good. I was always good. I never struck out a lot, so I was pretty good. My first, I think I had like 10 at-bats in preseason, like inside during the practice thing. And I only struck out like once or twice, so I did pretty well with that. I was able to adjust.
Yeah, no Rob Deere type numbers where it's home run or strikeout.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to Brown real quick because, we're talking about the lost opportunity recently of the wrestlers. Of course, it's every winter sport, but the 330 Division I wrestlers, you had an opportunity to step on that stage 3 different times. Explain your first opportunity. What was that feeling like when you heard your name called and you're out there wrestling for the first time at the NCAA championships?
I was definitely a little bit shell shocked. I'm gonna be honest, because I got the wild card bid my sophomore year, and I had a kid from Central Michigan who was pretty good, and I was just trying to take it all in that first year. I was more happy that I was there. And then like the next 2 years, I knew I had a mission to try to, knock some guys off and try to get on that podium. But that first year, it was just, when you step on that mat, there's nothing that can replace that feeling. It's just an intense arena. You're looking around the stands. I always look up and try to find my parents because I always did that throughout my career. And I couldn't even find them. I always joke, my first year I wrestled in nationals, there's so many clocks out there that I didn't know. I was looking at the wrong clock. I always thought that was funny. So every other match that I had after that, I told coach to make sure which clock's mine. Because I screwed that up. I'm looking at the clock. I'm there's 2 minutes left. It was really only a minute 20. I'm I didn't know what was going on. I was but it was intense. It was really cool experience that first time. It was in St. Louis. And just really, really cool to step on that mat. You hear your name called, and just like thousands of people just going nuts.
Yeah, what was the experience like wrestling for Todd Beckerman at Brown? I mean, he hadn't been there a very long time. I mean, they're working on getting the regional training center going. I mean, explain what it was like wrestling in Providence.
Providence is an awesome city. I really enjoyed my time there, and Coach was great. He's funny. It takes a while to get used to him sometimes because he has little mannerisms you have to adjust to. But he's a really good guy, really good coach.
Yeah, that's first dig at Todd right there.
There it is.
There's the first one.
Yeah, freshman year, actually, I took me a while to adjust because he had me working in between 74 and 84, and he had me, like, cut down, and then he would bump me up. I'm like, what are you doing to me? But it was all just to help me get better. And so, Coach, he had certain ways. He knew how to push my buttons and how to get the best out of me, and that's something that I think he's really good at over there at Brown. And I think he's doing a great job building that program up. I mean, from my freshman year to my senior year, I think we went – freshman year, I don't know if we even had a guy go to nationals, and then we had senior year, we had 4, and all of our the only thing, obviously they're all seniors in my class, but it was just like you could see that building process throughout my 4 years, and it's just really cool to see that unfold and be a part of that.
You look at the strength of the Ivy League in wrestling. Of course, we've seen the rise of Princeton from your native New Jersey. But, what's it like walking around campus, being an athlete at an Ivy League institution where, let's be quite honest, sports is not the primary reason you're at an Ivy League institution or anybody's at an Ivy League institution?
Yeah, I'm sure it's different. I don't know if it's different at the other Ivies, but I know Brown, there was definitely a divide, obviously. I'm sure it is at the other ones, too. But even we had an article at one time in one of those, it's called the Brown Noser. It's like a joke satire newspaper they have.
Well, it's a great name for a satire newspaper.
Yeah, the Brown. Their article was about we should get rid of all sports and stuff. And literally they were like ripping in on us. And so like somebody fired back and put like the numbers compared to like the athletes who end up in like jobs and stuff. They were like having a little battle. Literally the athletes and the non-athletes were having a war in a newspaper. Like that's how bad it got sometimes with the divide. But for the most part, it was fine. I never had any issues personally with anybody. Like all my friends that weren't athletes they were cool and they were fine. They were excited that I was an athlete. So I don't know who wrote that newspaper article, but I know there was definitely a little bit of tension between the athletes and non-athletes.
What have you learned about the wrestling scene up in New England? I mean, it kind of underrated. I mean, every now and then you'll hear somebody from Connecticut or Maine or something like Cody Hughes was from Maine and he was going to wrestle for Virginia Tech at the Nationals this year. And then, Richard Perry, he's from Connecticut. So, I mean, what did you discover about the wrestling scene up in New England, specifically Rhode Island, when you were there?
Obviously it's very close knit. We worked with I know this guy's a Massachusetts guy, but Donnie McNeil is in our regional training center. So I got to know a lot about the New England wrestling scene from him and also from John because they do the New Englands. And I think that's a cool format. In your states, you can go compete against the whole region there. So I think that's really cool. But I really like what they're doing with their youth program. I was able to help a lot with like Beat the Streets up there, and they're really starting to build it up. They're doing Beat the Streets Rhode Island is going to combine with Mass, so they're going to try to make like a full like regional umbrella there for Beat the Streets New England. So I think they're doing a lot of really good things with the youth, and we have a couple of tough kids. I mean, we had Sam he's from Rhode Island, he was local. We had the LeBreeze, they were local. So there's a lot of scrappers up there, and I think it's going to be a region that could be tapped into pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty good Division III school there, Johnson Wales, right across town as well. They're also drumming up some support for the sport there.
I love JWU. Coach Lonnie's great. We worked a lot with them. I mean, we always wrestled in the JWU Open. My favorite tournament, they give you hair care products if you win. So, I mean, that's the best prize,
As a Jersey guy, you've got to respect that.
It was American Crew. It was the good stuff. It wasn't cheap. It was a suitcase. It was huge. And that was a big thing every year. So, like, I only wrestled in my freshman year. I took second, so I got, like, a small bag of, like, hair products. But every year we needed somebody to win that. So the whole locker room was, set on our hair products for the year. So it was important that we had kids winning the JWU Open.
You're going to have to tell Dennis Papadopoulos that Hofstra to head to that tournament because have you ever seen his? He's impeccable with his hair.
He nails the product. I know. He's got that slick going.
Now, as we go to the opportunities to compete at the Nationals, you talked about your first opportunity. The announcement that came from the NCAA on Monday is that they would not grant any relief for the winter sports athletes. You were in the middle of a baseball season when the shutdown occurred of college sports. Explain where you were at and what the situation was like being a baseball player at Sacred Heart when all sports were said, oh, we're done.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting the way it was going down because we were literally, we had a meeting in the locker room and different conferences were dropping first before the NCAA finally made that decision to just drop everything. And so we were looking, SEC said we're doing no fans. And then we saw teams that were playing, like Central Connecticut. This was the day of our last game. It was a Wednesday we played. Central Connecticut's in our conference. They said we're shutting down everything, including sports. And then, I forget, I think – it's the MAC. It's not the MAC with Miami, Ohio, but the MAAC.
Oh yeah, where Ryder is as an all sports conference. I think it's with the Metro Atlantic, I believe.
Yeah, they dropped everything. They canceled their sports. So we're watching this unfold in front of our eyes, and the NEC was kind of holding in there before, and they didn't drop sports obviously until the NCAA made the call. So it was a weird dynamic. We're sitting there what's going to happen to our team? And we had a meeting in our locker room, and our coach was like, hey, we're going to have a meeting with the NEC over the phone. And he basically said, we're going to try to hang in there. So we were all excited, hey, at least there's a chance. We kept thinking there's a chance that maybe they'll delay the season, but there's maybe an opportunity mid-April, May. That's what we were hoping for. And then a day later, we got the official call. The NCAA had canceled it. And that was the most eerie thing. We all came into we have the Bobby V Center, but it was the sports center over there that we were in Sacred Heart. And literally all the spring sports were having the same meeting at the same time, just individually, and just getting the news. And it was tough to see, especially all the seniors. Just, you're not sure, even though they got the extra year eligibility, you're still not sure if they're going to have that opportunity to play, who had jobs, who had, I don't even know how it's going to work with school. If you have to be if you're a grad student and you're graduating, can you still play? I'm not sure how that works yet. So it was tough to see those seniors that are not sure where their season's going to lie. And it was just, for me, I had already finished up. Wrestling was my big one, so I knew how it feel to, lose your sport. So, watching it up with my teammates and other teammates from Sacred Heart, it was tough.
Yeah, and, you lost the season, with baseball, but again, it wasn't your primary sport. You guys on the team that you were with there for 5 years, and there's talk. I mean, when Stony Brook made that run to the College World Series a couple years ago, or Coastal Carolina, programs like smaller schools in baseball, when they make that run to the postseason, have that opportunity, it captures the attention of the national media. And granted, I'll be honest with you, I'm not too familiar with the historical tradition that is Sacred Heart baseball, but those fifth-year seniors, you're playing for that College World Series. You want to play to get there. So all these games matter. And, looking around your teammates, those fifth-year guys, I mean, how hard was that to kind of take in?
Like I said, it was tough. Because I had lost my primary sport, like you said already, and just seeing them, I mean, even our coach broke down at one point, and it was hard on him. He was giving us, trying to give us some pep talks, staying positive, but it's just, it's uncharted waters. We never seen this happen in athletics and in our country at all, and it's just crazy that it's happening now. But especially with Sacred Heart, we had a really good. We were starting to really gel as a team, and believe it or not, we were actually we finished first so far in the NEC, where we were at. So it was just tough because we had a really good shot this year. I think we had a lot of good guys, and we were starting to find our core guys that are starting nine basically. And it was just, it's tough to see it end at such an early point. We didn't even get to see what our team could have been.
What was your reaction to yesterday's, I guess announcement is kind of a loose way to put it because it was basically two sentences that the winter athletes in the year 2020 would not get a year back. And of course, we got to remember that involves more than just Division I. That's multiple sports in the winter season in Division I and Division II and Division III. So, I mean, what's your initial response there?
I hate to see that. Obviously it stinks. So much blood, sweat, and tears, especially in wrestling. I always go to wrestling right away because I know how bad it feels for those guys to lose this opportunity. I always think, I just saw Kolodzik. His situation's tough because he came back for the year. He dropped his Olympic red shirt, and to try to make a run at nationals and help his team win an Ivy League title. And I don't know how it's going to work out with kids like that. It's terrible to see them lose this opportunity. I wish there was a way they can do the tournament in the fall. I know that was a lot of people saying that. But that's the only thing that's tough. I guess the NCAA was probably trying to stick to that like medical redshirt rule where it's like 1/3 of the season is kind of the cutoff. I don't know if that's what their thinking was. But I feel like they left a lot of guys hanging, especially the seniors who put, especially with wrestling, they put 4 years in just to get to the tournament. And then to actually finally make it and not get the chance to step on that stage is just terrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of different moving parts to it. One is the question is, okay, you did all this for March. March is the only thing that matters. Is our sport a victim of his own circumstance? And then the other side of it is, more than half of like Division I, for example, their seasons were over. We were going into the Nationals. And then look at Division II and Division III. Those kids were warming up on the mats the day before. I mean, I was announcing Division IIIs and, the announcement comes that I have to tell the guys, the 10 to 15 teams out there. And, those are guys that, they're in situations like Sacred Heart and Brown where financially the sticker price of these schools is legit. So if you even wanted to come back, if you even got that option, I'm sure it's not cheap to pay the full cost of attendance at Brown or at Sacred Heart without any type of financial aid. So there's those things. And then, you apply one thing to one sport, you have to apply it to everything. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this.
Yeah, I mean, I was good friends with Tom Pakakua. He was a wrestler for Stevens. He's a D3 guy. And he, really tough kid. I wrestled him through middle school, all through growing up. And it was just tough to see, like a kid like him. He came all the way back. He had a couple injuries. He finally, this year, he was healthy, got through the year healthy. And he was, about to make weight the next day or whatever it was for NCAAs. And then they tell him it's over. It's just, I really feel for kids like that because it's, you put your life into it and then you get this opportunity pulled away. He had a really good chance to All-American, I think, and I really, really hate to see it.
On things that are more positive from your career, let's go back to football. You had a chance to play in 12 games, 7 tackles, got a forced fumble in there too, but you guys finished 7-5. Overall thoughts about being on the gridiron, back on the sidelines on the football field for the first time since high school?
It was really good. See, Sacred Heart, I have a cool little connection to because we had 3 kids, 4 including my coach, who I had prior connections to with St. Joe in high school. So three of my teammates from my high school team were on Sacred Heart. So it's like I was just stepping back into like the same family, which was really cool. And Coach Cook was our defensive coordinator, and he was the coach. I was the linebackers coach. He was the linebackers coach for us, and he was just, his energy every day was so much fun. There's something about that football. I always talk about that family aspect, and it's such a cool bond. And we had a cool bond between our defense. We had, for turnovers, we had the Money in the Bank WWE briefcase. So that was like our go-to thing. So that was one of my favorite moments. It was against Wagner. I come down on kickoff. I kind of run past the ball carrier and came behind him, punched the ball out. One of our guys picked it up. And immediately I ran off. I grabbed that briefcase. That was pretty cool. We used to do like a big celebration on the sideline. So there's just something cool about football, little things like that feeling before it's hard to match. It's like a weird butterfly thing. Like you're about to go to war with an army of soldiers there. And when you run out of the tunnel, they got the big tunnel and we do a lot of dramatic stuff. You know how football is. And it was just a really cool opportunity to get the strap up one more time and just, it was cool because I got a lot of opportunities to play, not just on special teams, but they got me in on some defensive packages too. So I was like the free blitzer basically. So it was really cool.
Yeah, what's it like to hit somebody for the first time? Coming off a wrestling mat. I mean, explain the mindset of going from double legging somebody to tackling them with pads on. I mean, how similar are they? How different are they?
Yeah, and the hardest thing is the moving target. I always say, double leg is a little easier because I feel like I stutter step and I can like just double him. He's kind of stuck in the mud. These guys are moving, college, they're flying around, man. We had this one kid, he was a transfer from Penn State. I think he was a grad transfer, and we were going against him. He was on punt return. And like, I couldn't quite double leg him. I had to just, do enough to almost like a leg lace, so that was like my tackling form there. It's crazy because football is so different now. Like in practice in the preseason, we really don't tackle as much as like, the new rules with concussions and stuff. Like, so there's not as much hitting in practice. So I didn't really hit until like the first game. which was kind of interesting. Which is it's a change of how. I mean, some teams still do a little more hitting, but I know our team was kind of laid back because like our numbers, and we didn't want kids getting injured. So it was kind of interesting. I didn't really get that real first hit until we played Maine, which was kind of crazy.
Now we get jumping back over to baseball. The key is you had to get in a game. You had to get a stat to really basically count. You get in as a pinch runner, you steal a base, you score a run against Ball State, and explain that feeling. What's it like to? All right, I'm in the get in the game. That type of. All right, you're up. They call your number.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a pinch run or pinch hit situation, at least for my first few times. So I wasn't used to that because obviously in baseball and high school I always started, so I never really had the pinch run. My freshman year, I was the runner for the catcher in high school, so that was a cool
courtesy
high school
runner.
rule.
Yep, we know that.
I was courtesy runner, so that was my go-to. So I was used to the pinch running a little bit, but so obviously I knew coming in as a pinch runner, it was going to be pick off. Like so, I got picked off like 10 times, I think, like in that like inning. I kept diving back, and I got the sign. I was able to steal second, that was the most important thing. Get the second, and I knew if we get a hit, I can score. So it was a tight game. The whole game, literally back and forth. Our pitchers were going at it. Ball State's pitcher was a stud. Our kid's name was Luke Hansen. He was going after it. He was having a great game. So I got the second. We got the 2 outs. I'm like, all right, I hope our guy can do it. We had this kid, Sam, was up at the plate, Sam Manginelli. And he hit a ball, and it actually hit off the third baseman's glove. And I knew it was 2 outs. I had to be going. So I just was going. Coach gave me the sign. And I came in home. It was kind of a close play, but I was burning pretty good. And I came in head first slid. And it was really cool. The team had a cool respect for me because they knew I was a wrestler. They knew I was part of the football team. They were just excited that like I was like a cool athlete. Like they loved that. And the second I crossed home, not only because it was the winning run, but I think it was part because it was me. And we just did like a mock celebration. So that was one of the coolest things. Really kind of. I didn't want to have to cap off my baseball career and my college sports career that way, but as a lasting memory, as one of my last sports memories, it was a really cool opportunity.
Now, what part of the game was that?
It was late in the game. I think it was top of the ninth, believe it or not, or I'm pretty sure it was top of the eighth or ninth.
Oh yeah, so wow, late season heroics. Not quite like Rudy, where you're getting carried off by Notre Dame. I mean, granted, Sacred Heart is the only Division I Catholic wrestling program in the country. Little note there. And speaking of Sacred Heart, explain Fairfield. Explain Fairfield, Connecticut, in terms of what it's like to go to school there.
Yeah, Fairfield's really nice. It's a lot different than Providence because you're not like in like a downtown little area, so like stuff's not as close to walking distance. But I mean, I have my own house now, so it's not like I'm living on campus. I was living off campus. But Fairfield, the campus there, they've been building up. I remember my freshman year when we wrestled against Sacred Heart. From that year to what it is now, the school is just exploding. I mean, there's just new buildings popping up everywhere, and it's just a really cool campus. It's like you could tell it's a real close-knit community, and I really like it. It's really, really nice place to live for me. Like I go to the gym, I go to one of the gyms in town, and I get to mingle with the regular people in Fairfield. And it's just a really nice little town, and everybody seems pretty cool. And I just, like I said, I really like the campus. I mean, it's been blowing up over there. Bobby Valentine's the athletic director, so that's always cool having his face around. He's always around. He's walking his dogs around campus. They just built a new fitness center there, and I'm doing sports media, believe it or not, there for my grad program. And the studios they have there are amazing. So they're up there with, not quite ESPN standards, but like pretty darn close. So it's a really cool experience working up there and living around there.
I mean, you figure ESPN's in Connecticut, Sacred Heart's in Connecticut. I mean, it would make sense for a sports media outfit to have that type of setup. Of course, now I'm being jealous because my sports media setup at Old Dominion was not that, so to speak. So, I mean, I think the best thing I think I have what I have here is actually better than what I had in college. But when we look at the opportunities now, you mentioned Bobby Valentine. He's a guy that when he was managing, the big leagues, and then he went over to Japan. He did some AAA stuff. He was the AAA manager of the Norfolk Tides when I was coming through back in Virginia, and he's been known to be a bit of a character. What type of interactions have you had with the athletic director Bobby Valentine at Sacred Heart?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, he's always around campus, so every time I see him, hey, Mr. Valentine, how you doing? I shake his hand. He's always approachable. You can walk right up to him. He's talking to everybody on campus. And like even like at basketball games when our guys are doing the camera for the sports media, and like they put him right on. He just loves the spotlight. He takes it all in. But he's really great. He literally goes to every sporting event. I mean, we played Robert Morris. That was our last football game of the season, and he literally came all the way out to Pittsburgh. So he travels well, and he's just, he's a great guy to have around. Obviously, as for connections, because he probably has juice everywhere, and he's really just seems like a great guy. I mean, he's always laughing, he's always smiling, he's always doing something interesting. So he's really cool. Like even the other day, I follow him on Twitter. He was doing something in his basement with all his Mets stuff, just trying to keep the shoe community positive, I
think. Yeah, and speaking of that, I mean, Johnny Clark's the head wrestling coach there, and he's had some experience, all around the Ivies, and in, coming from Ohio State and coaching at Lehigh, among other places. And, what opportunities have you had to talk with Coach Clark? I mean, granted, did you get in the room at all? Did you get to scrap a little bit, in some downtime? I mean, what was your relationship like with the wrestling program there?
Yeah, so me and Coach Clark are real close. I mean, we got to know each other throughout the 4 years at Brown. And I always pop in the office all the time. He loved that I came over to play football. And I was trying to help out with some coaching, but believe it or not, we didn't want to mess up. It was like an NCAA thing. Like if I wasn't a NCAA student coach and if you wrestled in the room at the same time, it was like a violation somehow. So we just didn't want to screw that up. Obviously, I was doing baseball and doing other stuff. We didn't want to have an issue with that. But Coach Clark's a character. I always go in there. We always talk wrestling, talk everything, talk life. And obviously, if I'm up there in the summer, if this all works out, I was going to help him out. And he's just a good guy. He always bust my chops with Coach Beckerman. He knows him pretty well, obviously. And during the Sacred Heart match, he wanted me to come in and weigh in and act like I was eligible somehow. I thought that would be like, a good prank on Coach. So we're always trying to find ways to, prank Todd.
Yeah, just ask him about his technical support for his website. That's one of the longest running inside jokes I've got with Todd, and because Ozak is always on call, or he's not. Now, when we look at the next thing you're going to do, we talked about when you go to Brown, you've got different aspirations than necessarily being an athlete. What are your you said you're working your grad work in sports media. Where are your career goals? And obviously, I can put two and two together. Brown, that was also a school I was looking at for their sports broadcasting. There's some pretty good alumni there that have come through. But what are the career goals now?
Yeah, no, now it's kind of thrown on my plate real quick because I was trying to enjoy baseball for a little bit and put that on the back burner, I guess. But I definitely want to work something in sports media. Obviously, that's why I did the master's program. I got my undergrad in business, and then now I'm doing the master's in sports media. So I really like a lot of the like marketing kind of stuff. I know I kind of want to like turn the sports media into like a marketing thing. So you see so many of these social media jobs, and like I really have been interested in that kind of aspect because it's been booming. I mean, there's jobs everywhere. They teach us in our program how to use like a camera and stuff. So I put together some like short mini docs. I did one on Donnie McNeil. I actually did one on Coach Clark. And so I really like that kind of aspect of the sports media. But also I'm still, still training different aspects. I mean, I still want to compete. Obviously, wrestling, I love wrestling. I've been actually working a lot, so we'll see. I've been working with Colby Covington. I'm good friends with him through Steve Mocco, the MMA over at American Top Team. I trained down there a little bit. And I've been training with Nick Newell up in Connecticut. FAA, Fighting Arts Academy. So who knows? Might have to take the next step there. But we'll see. There's a lot of things I've been working on, and I've been applying to different internships and different jobs right now. So we'll see. I really there's a lot of different avenues I can work on, and obviously once this quarantine gets done, we can really jump on it.
Who's your favorite Brown alumni historically?
Ooh, there's a lot of good ones. I got real close with Joe Mocco. I know.
Team Mocco, yeah.
Yeah, so Joe was like a father to like the team. He like took care of all of us all the time. He's just a good guy. He's always around for support if you need to talk to somebody or whatever. And he was always around at all the matches. So yeah, Joe was just a great influence on us, and he was always around. Plus he was local. I think that helped really. He's right down the street.
You ever hear the stories about his dad making people chicken parm in hotel rooms at just all hours of the day?
I heard his dad's a legend. I know. I always watched the documentary about Steve on Flow, and his dad used to like cater food, I think, for him or something. because he was the heavyweight, just pounding down different food for during the tournament. Probably pissed at getting the 125s, man.
Yeah, I remember one time, it was another Brown alum, Pat Tossi, who worked with me at the NWCA, and then Joe Macco, we're at the National Duels in Cleveland. Next thing you know, hey, we'll go get something to eat. And so, and Joe's like, yeah, come on, we'll go hang out with my dad. And then there is his dad's making us chicken parm in the hotel room, just like, oh no, I got it. So I was like, so I got to experience that. Now, the question is you kind of went in one direction where I was kind of looking for another. So who's your favorite Brown alumni that isn't a wrestler? Like, of all the famous Brown alums we've got, because I'm looking at a list right now, and there's a couple of them going, okay, there's good. Of course, I know my favorite. I'm going to throw it out there, is Chris Berman, because I grew up watching ESPN and NFL primetime and back, all that stuff with the home run derbies. But who's your favorite famous Brown alum? Not saying Joe Macco isn't famous, but who do you like and be like, yeah, that guy went to Brown?
Yeah, so actually I was lucky. I got to meet Chris Berman. I was walking to practice one day, and he was coming to check out the new football facility. And I was walking by him. I almost did like a double take, and I'm like, "Whoa, Chris Berman! Like, how you doing?" And he's like, "You got to talk to him for a second. He's a real nice guy." So that was cool. But I don't know. It's a toss up. I mean, we have Emma Watson from Harry Potter.
You don't strike me as a Harry Potter guy, though.
Yeah, but then I have to say my favorite is probably...
You're a closet Harry Potter guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably team Gryffindor. But the John Krasinski is the man. He did our senior speech, and obviously from The Office.
Really?
And then I've been watching that Jack Ryan show on Amazon. It's really good. He's really cool, and I always liked him on The Office because he was Jim, but when he came and did the speech, you could just tell he's the genuine guy. He was like legit. He knew he was like the big guy on campus when he was giving that speech, but he was trying to make a point that, hey, this is your graduation. This is about you guys. And just the way he carried himself, he was just a really cool guy. And it made me appreciate him so much more. So now every time I've been watching a lot of Office now in quarantine. So every time I see him, I'm like, hey, I met that guy.
Oh, you're not alone. We watched, I think last night my wife and I were watching, we were midway through season 5. So it was the buyout. So they bought out Michael Scott Paper Company and got rid of the other guy. So yeah, we just finished that episode. But you bring up, Jack Ryan. I'm watching that show and I'm like, Jim Halpert cannot be a badass spy. That just doesn't work. But it does.
Also, you see that 13 Hours movie is like similar tones. It's the Benghazi one, and he's like he's special forces. And it's the same thing. It's like, this is Jim. Like, what's Jim doing? He's like saving the world.
I mean, what are you going to do? Put your opponent's, AK-47 in a Jello mold?
Yeah.
Maybe that could be effective.
Paper. It could be. I like it.
Lastly, I just want to dive into to you a little bit, because right now we're recording this on video. Well, you can't see this on the podcast, obviously, but behind you have a pretty good collection of frame. You got your, obviously, the Brown wrestling singlet kind of speaks for itself. But what about the other frame? You got a couple framed SIs. You got some framed athlete photos there. Explain what is on your wall and why and what the relevance of it is.
All right, so I'm a big World Cup soccer fan, and of course I got Alex Morgan. She's up there. She's our captain, our leader. For the women's soccer team.
You just gained a whole legion of fans by that. Seriously, there is an underbelly of U.S. women's national team fans in wrestling. They don't maybe admit it all the time, but all right, that's a pitch right there. CJ LaFragola, Hearts, Alex Morgan. Got it.
Yes, very important. And I got my Sacred Heart jersey hanging there. I was fortunate to get that the last day before I left. They had it. We had to order new ones before I can get that one, so I was able to get it before the quarantine. Then I got JB, of course, Jordan Burroughs. It's actually autographed. It's hard to see.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have a picture of me, that'd be super meta.
And then I got over here Lloyd Kiesler. He was from the Navy camp. I had him. We met him. He instructed us. He was a silver medalist. Another EIWA champ.
I don't know how many people that have a picture of Butch Kieser on their wall. I mean, you've got to be the first person I've met ever that has a picture. I mean, on my wall, I got Kerry McCoy and Brad Fearing. I mean, you've got Butch Kieser, the first world champ. That's cool. And
then if you really want to get the deep cuts, we got Vinny Paz. I met him.
Vinny Pazienzo.
Twin
wow.
Reds. Yeah, he's a real funny guy. He
Tasmanian Devil. I'm not much of a boxing guy, but I used to be. Matter of fact, I've got an SI of Sweet Pea Whitaker up here. You can't kind of see it on my screen, but wow.
And then over here, what do we got? There's a couple more things. I got some good things here. I got my 1,000-yard Russian ball from high school. So that's cool. And then over here we got I'm a big sneaker guy. So these are my Sean Weatherspoons. These are actually worth like $900. So these are my grails. I get scared wearing them. I got really lucky. I won them on the sneakers app for Nike. So that's kind of a big thing. And here's a last big piece. I got my Pete Rose ball.
Oh, okay.
I met Pete Rose in Vegas with my dad. That was a really cool opportunity. We sat down for like 30 minutes and he like talked shop with us, and he was a really good guy, giving us some hidden tips.
You did avoid the basketball though. Like you didn't mention the basketball. I want to know about the basketball.
I mean, I'll mention, of course. I mean, we got Shaq. I mean, it's a Shaq ball.
Dude, I grew up an Orlando Magic guy, so I mean, as much as it disheartened me for him to leave the Magic, Shaq's part of my years, man. So I can mad respect the Shaquille ball. Although, how many kids have you seen now that are growing up named Shaq or Shaquille?
Not a lot.
Slightly more than there are named Anthony.
And then if you one more thing, I guess we got the Iron Man helmet.
Okay, so you got that.
I can put that on. You can actually put that on.
Okay.
That's full size. So I think that's important to mention.
Now, what you don't know that I can see in the reflection of your brown singlet, I can see a Jaws movie poster.
Yes.
Give me the story behind that.
All right. Well, that's my mom's favorite movie, so it's important that I mention that. That's always been her favorite movie. You know, we're Jersey Shore people. We've always been around the water. And so growing up, I must have seen Jaws about 30,000 times. And every time it's on TV, we watch Jaws. So that movie's been a staple of the LaFragola household.
So growing up in a beach community, why on earth would your parents show you that and then say, go to the beach? No, that doesn't work.
It's a great question. I guess they taught us, hey, you got to be tough. Got to be able to, battle the sharks. Chief Brody showed us how to take down a shark.
I mean, a dogfish, I can see that. They're a little annoying. That bite's going to hurt. It might take a chunk out of you, but that's about a great white. You've seen what happens? Yeah. Oh, man.
My brother had a fear of the beach growing up when he was real little, so I think that might have been a part of it. Thanks, Mom. Anyway, CJ LaFragola, we've had a very interesting conversation about your career, 3 sports, and I want to throw this out there. Any advice for anybody out there that wants to do something as wild as this? Because the only other 3-sport athlete I can remember was a guy who played baseball, football, and basketball at Wake Forest back in the 90s. I think his name was Rusty LaRue. And that was like, holy crap, you're the quarterback, you're the point guard, and you're a pitcher. That's pretty beastly. That's not exactly the way you're going to go about your college sports career. But if you have any advice for somebody that may want to play multiple sports or look at a graduate year when we get sports back, what are your suggestions for them? Well, yeah, that's my big thing. Never give up on the opportunity. It's attainable. I guess me doing it shows that it's attainable, and anybody can do it if you love sports. If you've done multiple sports growing up, I think the most important thing is. Like for me, it wasn't with football and baseball. They didn't affect each other because they weren't in the same season. But I guess if you're doing it throughout 4 years, just say if you do, make sure you work with your coaches and make sure they agree with each other. I know that was my issue with trying to do football and wrestling at Brown. It was tough to get Todd and the football guys to kind of make an agreement to let them train a little bit here. And so obviously just. It's work with your coaches, work hard. I mean, that's always give 110%, but it's definitely attainable, I guess. If I had to give anybody advice, there's a way to do it. If you want to do it, you just got to make it happen, I guess. And I had that chance through that grad year, and I found a way to make it happen. I mean, I always wanted to play the multiple sports, and I figured out a way to do it.
All right, last question. 1, being from Jersey, the question's coming. Is it Taylor ham or is it pork roll?
All right, this is a fight in the LaFragola household. So I grew up more of a South Jersey person.
So you're going to say pork roll.
I'm pork roll.
Right.
Yeah, but they grew up North Jersey, like Union County. So they're Taylor ham. And this is my argument, and this is a lot of people's argument. Taylor is the main brand. That's the biggest brand. But it's Taylor pork roll. I don't know where Taylor ham.
So, again, to compare
Taylor's
this.
the brand. It's like a Kleenex.
They're Team Kleenex, you're Team Tissue.
Exactly. I'm Team Tissue.
Team Tissue. Maybe that's something we can start here. And lastly, where can people follow you on social media if they want to find out a little bit more about what you're going to be doing, post 3-sport collegiate career?
Let's see. What's my Twitter here? I always mess up my handle. It's really easy. At CJ LaFragola. And I'm pretty sure Instagram's the same thing. So
how do you mess that up? I mean, is that a ringing endorsement for an Ivy League degree right now? We're going to end on that?
CJ _LaFragola on
there
Instagram.
We go.
That's key. You need the I knew there was something different. Had to underscore it.
It's been very educational, and good luck to you in the rest of your career. And like I said, it's been a pretty cool story to follow. I've been keeping an eye since you had first ended up on the Sacred Heart football roster, and then this story just comes to fruition. I see a newspaper story about your baseball escapades against Ball State, and I'm like, we got to get this guy on the show. It's overdue anyway, but I appreciate the time, and good luck in the future.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, and stay safe out there.
The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Sportswear. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. Hey, you know what? Did you like the show? You want to hit that subscribe button? MatTalkOnline.com/listen. Various different ways to subscribe to this show on your favorite podcatcher of choice. And if you're already subscribed and you already listen and you love the show and you want to support this show and this network, MatTalkOnline.com/join the team. Become a team member today.